What up, everybody? Power Season 6, Tommy canceled Christmas on Joe Proctor after he found out that Proctor was a snitch. This led to Ghost telling Joe's cousin, Mafia Capo, Benny Savello, that Tommy killed Joe, in the middle of Ghost's ongoing beef with Tommy throughout Season 6. As a result, Benny then went to hunt down Tommy, and when Tommy got back to his apartment one night, Benny was waiting for him at his door, ready to take him out. The two fought for a minute until Tommy got the upper hand, and then he sent Benny to see Joe. The next day, Tommy used his ambulance as a way to get Benny's body out of his place and took Benny and the ambulance to be demolished. Kate picked Tommy up, and he let her know that he's going to have to get out of town, that he did some shit that he could never take back, and that's killing a made man. When she asked him where would he go, he told her California, because he was introduced to a guy out there named Rudolfo through Jason Mitchell. Rudolfo was Jason's West Coast distro when Tommy was his New York distro. But around this time, Tommy got a call from Tariq, who had listened to the recording of Tommy confessing to killing Lobos and Tommy killing Ruiz, that was left to Elisa Marie by her father, Joe Proctor, and was now also in possession of her Aunt Dolores, Benny's sister. So to make Tommy's problems worse with the Savello family, Tommy then kidnapped Elisa Marie in an attempt to get the flash drive. Tommy returned Elisa Marie unharmed, but the damage was done. Mafia boss Carlo Savello now had a bounty on Tommy's head, figuring out it was Tommy responsible for killing both Benny and Joe after talking to Vincent Ragney. After returning Elisa Marie, on his way to save Ghost, Tommy ran into Vincent, who got the drop on Tommy's location through Tariq. At this time, Tommy wiped out Vincent and several of his men, leaving the Ragney crime family in shambles. But he still had to get out of town because of the fact that Carlo and the Savello mob had a bounty on his head. So Tommy stayed true to what he told Kate and went to Cali, where he linked up with Rudolfo. But at this time, Tasha was on trial for Ghost's murder. So to get out of jail and keep the blame off of Tariq, she said that Tommy was the shooter. So before Tasha could even get out of jail and get settled, Tommy was back in New York gunning for her. At this point, Tariq found Tommy visiting Lakeisha's son Cash and convinced him to fake his death and leave New York. And Tommy agreed and faked his death, but still had it out for Tasha, who had to go into WITSEC for her safety. While Tommy was on his way back to Cali, he stopped through Chicago, where his grandmother Miriam, who he was told was dead by Kate, used to live. The kid that told Tommy Miriam was alive also told him where he could find her. And when Tommy was leaving the nursing home, he also found out that he had a brother that he never knew about. While in Chicago, he also ran into some of the city's biggest players, Diamond and Jannard Sampson, and the Flynn family. That, in combination with Rudolfo blowing up Tommy's phone like he was just some worker, caused Tommy to stay in Chicago and do his own thing there. So Tommy stayed in Chicago until letters were sent out with Tasha's address, and Diana delivered one of these letters for Tommy to Kate, saying that she was Monet. At this point, Tommy showed back up in New York to finish the job on Tasha. But because Tariq had the drop on him, he wasn't able to, and ended up hashing things out with her instead. Either though, Tommy did kill a couple marshals who were guarding the house. While in New York, Tommy also ran into Tariq again outside of Noma's warehouse. When Tariq asked Tommy for help in the war, Tommy told him that he was already dead in New York. But Tommy going back to New York is something that we've never heard about or saw on Book 4 Force. I thought we would see or hear about it at least in Season 2 of Force, but we never did. So the question I have is, did Tommy go back to New York off screen on Force, or is the Force timeline that much behind the Book 2 timeline? Because Force started after Tommy left New York in Season 1 of Ghost, and there's been 2 seasons, just like there were 2 seasons of Ghost before the premiere of Season 4. So there is a chance we won't see Tommy return to New York on Force because he might have already did it off camera. Especially now that both Ghost and Force are canceled, with new spin-offs supposed to be replacing them, moving the story forward. And with Tommy, when it was announced that Force was canceled, they specifically said that Tommy's journey in Chicago was over. So obviously Chicago was never Tommy's final destination because he was originally headed to Cali, and New York is his home. So given the opportunity, if his name was in the clear, Tommy would most likely want to return to New York eventually. But the two things stopping him from returning is the Italian Mafia and the fact that he fakes his death to keep him from becoming a fugitive for Ghost's murder. And the first check mark on the list might begin taken care of behind the scenes as season 4 Ghost is taking place. In episode 1, we got a clue in regards to the Italian Mafia. When Junior went to talk to Blanca about Tariq, she told him that Jenny is now chasing mobsters. Could this be talking about the Savello mob? I think it most likely is because the fact that when she got the letter from Saxe telling her to stop chasing after Tariq, she said that she would never let it go. What could have changed from the end of season 3 to the beginning of season 4? I think that Jenny is going after the Savello family, possibly because of their ties back to Tariq. A few weeks ago, I made a video talking about the confirmed return of Dolores in Force Season 3 by Joseph Sikora on IG. This could be another clue that Jenny is investigating into the Savello mob. Also keep in mind that Jenny Sullivan has already made an appearance on Force at the end of Season 1. And I'm pretty sure this crossover wasn't shown for no reason. Possibly Jenny making an arrest on the Savello crime family could be the next crossover we see on Force at the end of Season 3. As a result, Tommy could potentially see about their indictment on the news. Or possibly, the Savello mob could even flee New York as a result of Jenny's investigation and decide to set up shop in Chicago. Either way, with the Savello mob either in prison or out of New York, Tommy would be one step closer to returning back to New York. And if the Savello mob does set up shop in Chicago, it could be part of why Tommy leaves Chicago regardless of where he goes next. With that said, I also heard that it's been said of a possible Italian Mafia spinoff based off the continued story of Elisa Marie Proctor. Could this spinoff actually take place in Chicago with some of the same characters who were left over from Force once it ends? Similar to Tariq in the continued story, mixed with the introduction of new characters at the start of Book 2. But also keep in mind that Jenny was working with Saxe to take down Tariq in Season 3. And something that was never mentioned was the fact that Saxe had the recording on his phone of Tariq admitting to killing Ghost. I talked about this after episode 1, that Saxe couldn't have been who sent the flash drive to Junior because of the timeline of Saxe's death and when Tariq talked to Obi about the green cards. I'll put a link to that video in the description if you haven't checked it out yet. But something else that would have almost guaranteed been on this flash drive if it was Saxe who sent it and it was his file on everything he had on Tariq would have been the recording of Tariq confessing to killing Ghost. So what did ever happen to this recording? Is it now completely obsolete, or does Jenny have access to it? Because one way Tommy could be cleared to return to New York is if Tariq goes to prison for Ghost's murder. And either though I don't want this to happen and would rather see Tariq's story continue in another spinoff, I do have to say that it's a possibility at the same time. Because I could definitely see Book 2 ending with Tariq going to prison for Ghost's murder. But at the same time, he would get released a few years later on a technicality similar to Ronnie on Raising Kanan. But if this did happen, this would open the door for Tommy's return to New York. But so would Ghost returning and saying that somebody else shot him other than Tommy and that he faked his death because he feared for his life. Tommy could then return and say the same thing. And another way I could see Tommy returning to New York would be after being extradited, possibly after getting arrested by Stacey Marks on one of the final episodes of Force. Then Tommy's next spinoff would start with Tommy on trial for Ghost murder like Tasha was in Season 1 of Ghost. And I've talked about Elisa Marie getting revenge by taking out either Tommy or Tariq a few times. But what if she is actually able to put the pieces together with Jenny Sullivan and take down Tommy for her father's murder and Tariq as well as an accomplice. Then both Book 2 and Force could potentially end with both Tariq and Tommy getting locked up. Then there's also the fact that Tasha is who pinned Ghost's murder on Tommy in the first place. If Tasha were to get killed in season 4 of Ghost by somebody else, this could also open the door for Tommy to return to New York because now the state wouldn't have a witness against him. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.